Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. First, we'll be covering a trade deadline preview, just talking about players that could be moved and where they could be moved and why. Next, we'll be talking about some Rookie of the Year candidates from every team and what's going to happen with that. And finally, just going around the league for some news in general. So now, before we do that, I would like to ask you to please like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on the air, please do use the link you see on the screen there, streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network /tip. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. All right, let's get into our first segment here today, which is talking about the trade deadline. Now, I know it's a little early to be talking about the trade deadline, but, we've had a few trades happen in the past few days or so, and I just want to talk about what bigger trades could happen as the season goes on, maybe even some that could happen earlier than the trade deadline is happening and the date that it is scheduled for. Before we start that, I just want to say that Shohei Ohtani just had his Dodgers debut in spring training and struck out from Garrett Crochet of the White Sox. So, that's the start to Ohtani's presumably illustrious career with the Dodgers. Just want to get that out there because we'll probably talk more about it later. But it just happened before I went on live. I was watching it. So, I just wanted to get that out there and talk about it because it is Ohtani and we have to because he is the best player in the league. So first, let's go over the trade deadline preview. These are a few players I think are possible to be traded. I wouldn't necessarily say likely, but I think if everything falls the wrong way for this team, because you don't ever want to be traded. I think they are probable trade candidates. They've also been guys that have been mentioned for a little while. So I think it makes sense in that way as well. So these are guys I think have a good chance of getting traded at the trade deadline if things happen. Fall into certain ways for the team and the player. So we can't talk about trades in baseball right now without talking about Mr. Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease has been shopped the entire offseason, was named one of the more likely trade candidates before the offseason started. We thought it was extremely likely he was going to get traded with how much rumors there were, how many teams reported interest. We thought this for a long time, and would you look at that? He's still on the roster and it's spring training. So I still don't think Cease will end the year with the White Sox. I think it's very likely he gets traded before the trade deadline starts. Before the trade deadline ends, I should say. And I think that's for a multitude of reasons. I mean, the easiest one is he's expiring in a year and a half, 2 years for his contract. Deadline will be a year and a half. And the White Sox are not very good. And he doesn't seem to be a building block for them as they've shopped him for a long time. So when your team isn't very good and you're a very good player who's expiring soon, who's not necessarily like a young superstar, maybe like a guy like Luis Robert is, who they're not shopping around, I think the writing's on the wall for him to go. So I'm going to name a few teams I think could have some interest and, would probably look into it. So these are 3 teams that we know of before that have had interest, that have shown interest when we thought he was getting traded this offseason, had been mentioned rumors with him. So the first one has to be the Cincinnati Reds. They've been mentioned all offseason long with Dylan Cease. They make a lot of sense. They need a young ace for that rotation. Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green, Graham Ashcraft, pretty good young pitchers, but I don't know if one of them is an ace yet. They could be in the future, but I think Dylan Cease definitely is, and you add that guy to a rotation that has a lot of good young pieces, but maybe is missing one big guy like Cease. I think that makes your rotation very, very good, very formidable, and in a division where you can easily win it. And I believe you're the best team in that division. I think this will only add to it and maybe even add to your playoff chances as well. They have the prospects to do it. They have a lot of depth in that organization in the younger and upper levels. So I definitely think the Reds are a team to look out for if Cease does get mentioned in trade rumors again. We have to mention the Yankees. The Yankees have been mentioned with Cease for a long time now. It's been mentioned that they would have had him right now if they were willing to give up Spencer Jones in the deal. Obviously, they are not, as Spencer Jones is currently killing it in spring training with the Yankees. I don't blame the Yankees for not giving up Spencer Jones. I don't think Dylan Cease is a piece that just automatically wins you a World Series. I think he's a very good piece. I think any team would be lucky to have him. But I think when you look at Spencer Jones' future and how good he can be, I'm not sure that you would trade him for Dylan Cease, even with how good Dylan Cease is. So But I still think the Yankees have to be mentioned with him because they need another pitcher. Again, they've been ruined with him for so long. They have a lot of good young pitching depth, a lot of good young prospects. I mean, that's how they were able to trade for Juan Soto as well. So I think they have to be mentioned with Dylan Cease, and I think it makes a lot of sense if he does get shopped again around the trade deadline. Next, we have the Orioles. The Orioles have probably been the most rumored team with Dylan Cease, and for good reason. We all know what the Orioles need, and that's pitching. They got Corbin Burns, yes, but you can always get more pitching. You don't need. There's no shortage of pitching that you'll ever need. So, I think Cease to Baltimore would make a lot of sense, and it's something I'm definitely on the lookout for. Corbin Burns is only under contract for 1 year. And if he were to leave next year, you're kind of screwed because I don't know if you're going to, dish out a big pitching contract. But you have Cease then for 1 year. He can easily fill in that ace, get in with the other young guys in your rotation, kind of just fill in. And for this year as well, you'd have a formidable tandem of Cease and Burns, top of that rotation. Really, really great. So that would make a lot of sense. And let's say you do keep Burns. You then have Burns and Cease for a long time with that young hitting core. That's a team to be reckoned with right there. So I think Cease and the Orioles make so much sense, and that's where I thought he would go this offseason. I would guess they would probably be the favorites if he is shopped at the deadline again. So we'll just have to wait and see. The next player here is Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim, like Dylan Cease, has been shopped around all offseason. He's an impending free agent. The Padres do need space for their young shortstop prospect, Jackson Merrill, who's one of the top prospects in baseball. So trading Kim just does make sense. They've also needed some pitching for a long time. So trading Kim, who's a very good player, who is expendable because of the players you have and because of his contract situation, for a good young pitcher, even a pitcher in general, I think would make a lot of sense for the Padres. They could still trade him during spring training if they really believe that Jackson Merrill is that guy and is going to start at the opening day for shortstop for them. But I think if they were going to do that, they would have traded him already. And I think they do want to trade him. I just think it's a fact of, he's a very good player, and it's not like we need to trade him, so we'd like to get the most we can out of him. So I don't think anyone's offered them a package that is to their immediate liking so far. So, but I think if that does happen, whether that's sooner or later, I do think he is a very good candidate to be traded. Two teams that jump off right away for Kim. First is the Giants. They need a shortstop. Mark Luciano is good, but getting a guy like Kim to really solidify that position would be very, very nice for them. Also, Kim has a lot of connections to the Giants organization. First, Bob Melvin, who was his manager last year in San Diego. Bob Melvin reportedly loves Ha-Seong Kim. He thinks very highly of him as a player, so I think bringing him in for your new manager would be a very nice move. And also the Giants just gave a huge contract to one of his best friends in Jung-Hoo Lee. Jung-Hoo Lee was very heavily rumored with the Padres when he was a free agent because of the connection to Ha-Seong Kim, both being from the KBO in Korea. So I would think with those situations, even if Kim doesn't get traded to the Giants at the deadline, I would look at him to the Giants as a likely fit in free agency next year. And we also have talked about the Braves here. The Braves, of course, have an incredible team. But if there's one position they're lacking, quote-unquote, I would say it is shortstop. Orlando Arcia's fine, but that's kind of it. He's just fine. You can definitely look to upgrade there. And I think Kim is a very, very good player who has shown that he is, and really broke out last year. So I think Kim to the Braves at the deadline is a very interesting scenario, and one I would definitely keep my eyes on if Kim is rumored to be available or likely to be traded at the deadline. Next, we're going to talk about a guy who, again, has been shopped all offseason like the other two, and that's Kenley Jansen. He's on an expiring contract. The Red Sox would like to save some money. If there's one strength the Red Sox do have, it is their bullpen. They have a lot of good pieces in that pen, so I think Jansen becomes flexible there. He does have a little bit of an injury, so I think that kind of takes away his market for now. But if he's all good at the deadline, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be traded. Sorry about the lights. If you're watching live, those should come back in a few seconds like they always do. I don't know why they shut off in this room sometimes, but they do. To keep going here, sorry about that. First, I think the Phillies, they make a lot of sense for a team to look for in Jansen. Sorry, we're going to be tiny break here because I don't know what's going on with the lights. Just sorry. And we're back. As soon as I take the be right back sign, the lights come back on. So that's nice. To go on with that, sorry. Again, that happens in this room a good amount. I don't know why. It's weird. Anyways. So yeah, the Phillies and Kenley Jansen, they make a lot of sense. The Phillies need another back end of the bullpen arm. They let Craig Kimbrell grow. They have a lot of good middle of the relief guys, but I don't know if you have a proven closer guy like Kenley Jansen. So I think he makes a lot of sense in that role to go to the Phillies. The Dodgers, another team that could use another back end of the bullpen guy. Also a fun storyline of bringing Jansen back to LA, where he, of course, had his career starting out. So I think that makes a lot of sense as well. So I'd look at those two teams as kind of immediate fits for Jansen. But at the same time, teams always need bullpen help. So if he is sharp at the deadline, which I assume he will be, I think really any team can look to get him. Any team that needs bullpen help. So, the market is kind of wide open for Jansen and the Red Sox. Next, we have to talk about Willy Adames. He's on an expiring contract. He's on a Brewers team that we don't really know if they're going to be rebuilding, retooling, or be really good. If he is not good, I think they could look to trade him because they do have a good amount of young infielders. He is on an expiring contract. I'm not sure how likely it is they re-sign him to a deal. For teams that are possibilities, I would look at the same teams that I mentioned with Ha-Seong Kim, the Giants, the Braves. Really another team if they have a injury at shortstop. I mean, one of the most famous examples is the Dodgers. Corey Seager hurt before the trade deadline, and then they made a blockbuster trade for Manny Machado. So, I think any team that needs an infielder at the deadline could look for Adames. So I think his market's pretty wide open. I'm not going to just kind of box it in with just a few teams. So Shane Bieber next. He's been mentioned in a long time for trade rumors, and I think he eventually does get traded by the trade deadline. He's on an expiring contract. He's, on a weird Guardians team where they don't really know what they're doing. They don't really know if they're going to be good or fully rebuilding and tanking. But yeah, he's on an expiring contract. I don't think they have the money to re-sign him. I think the Yankees make sense, the Red Sox, the Orioles, the Dodgers, really the teams we mentioned before. He is from LA, so I think the Dodgers could look to bring him back home. Really any team that needs starting pitching, which is always, that's always a need at the deadline. And I think Bieber could command a good prospect if the Guardians do falter and kind of then subsequently shop him as well. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Rhys Hoskins is next. We mentioned his teammate Willy Adames before. He's on an expiring contract, potentially, assuming he doesn't take his option, which if he has a good season, he will not take that option. He's pretty good. He's obviously coming off a season where he's fully injured, but he's not a pitcher, so I don't really think it should be that big of a deal. So I think if the Brewers do falter a little bit, not play that well, which I'm expecting personally, I think he could be a trade candidate. It didn't really make sense to me when they traded Burns right after signing Hoskins because I thought the two went hand in hand. Hoskins was a shine that they were okay trying to win the Central, but apparently not. Teams that can make sense for him: Giants, Mariners, Twins. Really any team that needs a power bat at first base or DH, which is a lot of teams. But I thought those teams really stood out because they needed a power bat and they probably are going to be competing at the deadline. But again, really the same. Really any team that needs a power bat. And finally, we have to end off with someone who is easily the most high-profile player on this list, and that has been mentioned in trade rumors for a little while now. It is Pete Alonso. As a Mets fan, it is very hard for me to talk about Pete Alonso being traded, but there are some merits to it, unfortunately. He is on an expiring contract. The Mets have not made that big of an effort to re-sign him. Personally, from everything I've read as a Mets fan, they are looking probably to see what he gets in the offseason, like from a team as a contract offer, and then deciding to match it or just walk away because they think it's too high. We know the history of first basemen getting huge contracts. It doesn't usually end well. So I think that's something you have to take into consideration. The Mets are obviously not going all out for a World Series. I think they're a pretty good team, but again, they're not trying to go all out for a World Series. So if they are bad a little bit, I think it does make sense for them to look at moving him. I would not want that because, again, I am very connected to Pete Alonso. I'm a Mets fan. But baseball is a business, and I trust in David Stearns, and I think the Mets are pretty smart organization right now, and if they do trade him, I just hope we get something good back. The same teams as Hoskins, really, for Pete Alonso. Again, any team that needs a power bat just makes sense for him. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. Just those same teams as Hoskins, and I don't think his market really is put into a box at all. I think there's a lot of teams that could show interest, and that make a lot of sense for him. So, that is the end of our first segment here. Sorry about the little technical difficulty before with the lights. That happens like once every 2 weeks. I don't know why. We're going to go to our second segment here, which is going to be about Rookie of the Year previews for each American League team. One Rookie of the Year candidate for each team, I believe. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that, but first we'll go to a break, so we'll see you after that. So, thanks.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Again, liking, commenting, subscribing really does help the channel, really means a lot to us. Tipping as well, streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network /tip. It really would mean a lot to us. It really helps everyone. So thank you so much for that. All right, we're going to go to our second segment here, as I said, and it is going to be talking about Rookie of the Year previews, specifically one candidate from each team that could be in the Rookie of the Year race. Now, I know it's kind of early to talk about awards. I'm gonna have a full show dedicated to it at some point closer to the start of the season, talking about my award predictions and favorites and previews and stuff like that. But I've talked a lot about young players in this channel and my live streams and recordings, so I think it only makes sense to talk about Rookie of the Year favorites for these teams. And yeah, I really I really want to talk about it. I'm excited too. So yeah. Let's get started here. First team we're going to be talking about is the Yankees, because we have to start with the Yankees. So the first player I'm going to be talking about for the Yankees is Austin Wells. I do think he is the most likely Rookie of the Year candidate for them. Obviously, it would be Jason Dominguez, but he is hurt and he's out for an undetermined amount of time. And I think Austin Wells is a very good player. I think he easily has the top catching role right now for the Yankees. He's been a top prospect for a little while, and it makes sense for him to be a Rookie of the Year candidate. He's a power-hitting catcher, switch hitter, needs to work on defense a little bit, but that's the same for every young catcher, really. But he has a great bat, and I think there's a really bright future for him. So yeah, I'd look at Austin Wells as the guy to watch right now for Yankees Rookie of the Year candidate. He's very, very good. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he does this year. Next, we have the Orioles, and I've talked about him a few times on this channel. Can't be anyone else for Rookie of the Year favorite than Jackson Holliday. Yes, he was in Double-A last year, but he's the number one prospect in baseball for a reason. He's that good. He's probably going to be on the MLB roster opening day. I would be surprised if he isn't with how good he is. I mean, he's going to be one of the top shortstops in baseball pretty easily. Got his name up there with the elite guys like Seager, like Lindor, like Bobby Witt, I think pretty soon. So yeah, Jackson Holliday is a beast. I think any baseball fan knows that. He's so good. The Orioles' young core is just absolutely incredible, and I think Jackson Holliday is at the forefront of that and going to be a guy to build around for a long time in Baltimore. And by most people, he's the AL Rookie of the Year favorite right now, and I wouldn't really disagree. Next, we have for the Red Sox, Adano Rafaela. He's a good outfield prospect, a guy that showed a little bit last year in the major leagues with the Red Sox. He has good speed, good defense. Hitting needs a tiny bit of work, but I think he'll be a good player in the MLB when it's all said and done. I'm really high on him. I think he's a really good player. And I think he's definitely one of the top Rookie of the Year candidates for the Red Sox, probably him and Wilyer Abreu. I went more with Rafaela because I think he'll make more of an immediate impact, but I don't know. I could be wrong. But again, Rafaela, I think is a really good player, and I think is a top Rookie of the Year candidate for the Red Sox and in MLB as well. The Blue Jays, this is an interesting one. It's Yariel Rodriguez. Obviously, he's 30, so he's not really a rookie, quote-unquote, but it is his first year in the MLB, and MLB considers that to be a rookie, even though he did pitch in the NPB for a long time. But yeah, Blue Jays put in the big signings for them. They're trying to figure out if he's going to be a starter or a reliever right now, or a mix of both. I think he'll be more of a very good back-end reliever, but if they can, fix up his stuff a little bit and make him a starter, props to them. But yeah, he's very good. Looking forward to watching him, seeing what he does. And the Blue Jays don't really have that many rookie-like guys. They have Ricky Tiedemann, who I'm not sure is going to be a full candidate this year. I'm not sure when he's going to be up. Probably later, but not like full-time this year. So I think Yariel's the answer with his experience playing overseas in professional leagues. So yeah, I definitely look at him as the top Blue Jays Rookie of the Year candidate. Again, he's not really a rookie, but he is considered a rookie because it is his first year in the MLB. So yeah, I definitely put him on this list. Next, we have Tampa, and the easy answer here is Junior Camarino. He's one of the better prospects in baseball. He's an outstanding hitter. Going to be a third base, second baseman for the Rays for a long, long time. Broke out after that trade from the Guardians. With the Wander Franco situation, I think he could be the next guy they look to as sort of the face of the franchise, the guy to take the helm of it and bring them to the promised land again as they made the World Series in 2020. Yeah, he's very, very good. I think he's one of the top Rookie of the Year candidates. He'd probably be in my top 3 right now. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to watching him and seeing what he does. He's a very, very good player, and he's definitely one of the top Rookie of the Year candidates. That's the end of the AL East now. We're going to move to the Central. And the first guy for the Guardians, you know who it is. I've talked about him a few times now on this channel, Kyle Manzardo. I love this guy. He's a former Rays prospect. We just talked about the Rays, of course. So, yeah, just a big power-hitting first baseman. Came over in the Aaron Savali trade. Just one of my favorite prospects in baseball. Just a pure power-hitting first baseman. I think something the Guardians have needed for a long time now. Maybe even since Mike Napoli left all those years ago. So, I mean, also Carlos Santana. Just those two guys. I think they've had a big opening at first base. A big guy like that, like Manzardo. So, yeah, I definitely look at him as a Rookie of the Year candidate for the Guardians. And he's someone I'm definitely watching this season to break out and be a young star and be in that Rookie of the Year race. The White Sox, another guy I've talked about a good amount here, Colson Montgomery. Again, one of the top prospects in baseball. Smooth swinging lefty shortstop. Just a great player all around. Really broke out as soon as getting drafted and has become, one of the fixtures of the future of that White Sox organization that is rebuilding. And I think he's going to be at the forefront of that rebuild, one of the guys they look to build around. I wouldn't be surprised they give him an extension rather quickly in the next year or so when he does show how good he is. So, yeah, he's definitely a Rookie of the Year candidate. I expect him to be up in the big leagues rather quickly. He could even make the roster out of opening day. That seems a little bit more far-fetched, but again, prospects are coming up earlier and earlier in the league nowadays, so I don't really think it's something that can totally be written off at this point. Tigers. I think the answer for me is Parker Meadows, a very good young outfielder prospect, of course, brother of former Tigers outfielder Austin Meadows. Very good hitter, very good defender. I think it's going to be a great piece for them in center field this year and for the future, hopefully as well for them. So, yeah, I definitely look at Parker Meadows as a Rookie of the Year candidate, especially for the Tigers. Very, very good player, guy who has a lot of tools, a lot of intangibles, and looking forward to watching him with Detroit this year. Next, the Royals. There wasn't many options, as I said before. They have an okay team, but no huge big rookies since their guys have come up, like Vinny Pasquantino, like MJ Melendez, of course Bobby Witt. And I think the one guy you do have to mention here, I guess, is Nick Lofton. He's a nice little utility guy, makes some nice contact, I guess. Good fielder. Not really much else to say about him. He's kind of here because, again, I didn't really have many choices for the Royals. That's not really a diss against them. It's just a lot of their young talent that they had been breeding has come up, and the last regime wasn't the best with drafting. So you have to look at this right now as the guys for the Royals. So Nick Lofton, I guess, is the candidate for the Royals, but I wouldn't look at him as some guy to look at league-wide as a top candidate. Minnesota. This one's easy to me. It's Brooks Lee. Brooks Lee has a really good chance of making the roster opening day for Minnesota. Very good shortstop prospect. Can add into that very good young Twins infield with Eduardo Julian, with Carlos Correa, of course, Royce Lewis. I think Lee will play play second base right away. Create a very nice duo with Correa for a long time, and I'm very high in Brooks Lee. I think he's a really good player, and I love all the tools he brings and the intangibles as a player. So I'm really excited to watch him and see what happens with him, and if he does make the roster on opening day. Moving on to the final division, the AL West here. First, we have the Astros. The first one is Gabe Kessinger. Not much to say about this. The Astros don't really have many prospects because they are a great team, and most of their prospects have come up already, like Yainer Diaz. Gabe Kessinger is considered a rookie, I still believe. He's a fine bench guy, but nothing really to talk about further. Just had to find a player for the Astros with where the roster is. Again, this is a good thing because they have so many good older players, but it's just where the situation is right now for the Astros. Angels. I think the answer here pretty clearly is Nolan Schanuel. Sorry if I not mispronounced that name. He was the first-round pick of the Angels last year, came up almost immediately after getting drafted with the Angels. They were trying to maximize that Ohtani window for the championship. And to a lot of people's surprise, hit really well. Had kind of a weird stance, kind of drew a lot of comparisons to Craig Counsell's stance back in the day, kind of really high up. But the strategy worked, and he hit really well. And I think he's looking like a prime Rookie of the Year candidate for the Angels. And, I'm looking forward to watching him and seeing what that Angels young core does. I've talked about it a little bit before, but I really like the Angels young core. I think they're kind of underrated. People kind of saw Ohtani leaving and didn't really give him the benefit of the doubt that they, or just kind of didn't look at them seriously. If they land Blake Snell, I think this can be a pretty good roster. Maybe not a roster that makes the playoffs, but a roster that definitely gives some teams some fits and competes in a way. So, I'm looking for Schanuel, and I think he's going to be a really good player. The A's next. Kind of same with the Astros. Not many players to think about this, but that's mainly because the organization is not very good right now. They don't really know what they're doing. I mean, they're about to change the franchise location, so they're kind of preoccupied with that. But I did pick Lazaro Armenteros. Nice outfield prospect. Strikes out a lot, but has good raw power, good speed. So, I'd look at him as a guy who maybe can break out and be a big piece for the A's. Maybe be a Rookie of the Year candidate if everything goes right for him. But I very much doubt it, as he's a fine player who'll be a fine player for the A's for a long time, but no, not really a standout in a way. Mariners. To me, this is pretty clearly Emerson Hancock. The Mariners have so many good young pitchers, and I think Hancock is one of the better ones. He has incredible stuff, incredible natural athlete. I think he's a future ace in this league, and I'm really excited to see what he does with the Mariners. I would look at him as one of the top Rookie of the Year prospects if he can avoid injury. So, I love Emerson Hancock. I think he's really good for that Mariners future. I think he's going to be a really good pitcher. And, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does and seeing how that young Mariners rotation performs. We have the Rangers here. It was a tough pick between Evan Carter and my guy Wyatt Langford, who you guys know I love. But I went with Evan Carter. He showed more last year because he was up in the big leagues. I mean, he was starting in the World Series, so I don't know how you can get more big leagues than that. I think it makes a lot of sense to have Evan Carter at the top of your AL Rookie of the Year list. He's a very good player, very good young player who's going to be a face of that Texas franchise for a long time. Great hitting tool, just a great player all around, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with the Rangers and how he does perform and how he plays with the future of that organization. So that is my second segment here. We're going to take a break before that. We're going to talk about our third segment after that, which is going to be about our Rookie of the Year previews. Basically what I just talked about, but switching up the teams a little bit. So we're going to take a break, but then when we come back from the break, we'll be talking about that. So thanks, and see you then.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment. We talked about it a little bit before, but NL Rookie of the Year candidates for each team. I'm having fun talking about this, so let's keep it going. First, we're going to talk about the Mets, who I mentioned before with Pete Alonso. So there are a lot of candidates for the Mets here, actually, because they have a lot of good young prospects they did acquire, who are probably going to be up fairly soon for the team. Guys like Jet Williams, Luis Angel Acuna, Drew Gilbert. But I went with a different guy who I think is going a little bit under the radar. And to me, that's Mike Vasil. Mike Vasil has a very good chance of making the big leagues this year. With the amount of pitching injuries the Mets have had, and with how close Vasil is to the major leagues, I think he could be a big candidate for the Mets rotation. And if he does perform very well, he could be a definite Rookie of the Year candidate. So, I'd definitely look at him as a guy who can fill in and play a significant role for the Mets and their pitching staff if there are injuries, or should I say when there are injuries, because it's baseball. There's a lot of injuries, especially to pitchers. So, I definitely look at Vasil as a guy who can fill in, be a very big part of the team next year, and I think he's definitely one of the top Rookie of the Year candidates for this team, and maybe even in baseball if he does perform better than I'm expecting. I'm expecting him to play very well, but, not to a Rookie of the Year candidate level. The Braves, for me, it is Hurston Waldrop. Waldrop was a guy who fell a good amount in the draft. I had him going pretty higher, much higher, I should say. Sorry, phrased that wrong. Much higher than where he actually did go in the draft, going 24th to the Braves. He could not have found a more perfect organization, though. He is from Georgia, grew up a Braves fan. He's very MLB ready. I think he's going to play a big part of this pitching staff for the Braves this year, whether that's in spot starts or a full-time bullpen arm or a full-time rotation arm even. I'm very high in him. I'm very high in what Hurston can do. And I think he's going to be up a lot this year. I think he's making big strides for the Braves and going to play a big part of their team going into the year. So, the Phillies. I went Mick Abel here. Mick Abel, I think, he's a very good starting pitching prospect for the Phillies. A guy that is definitely going to be part of the Phillies' future when it comes to pitching. They have needed some young pitching help for a little bit now, and I think Mick Abel can be a part of helping that, and is a good pitcher. So I'd definitely look at Mick Abel as a guy who can be a Rookie of the Year candidate if everything goes right for him and the Phillies, and just what's going to go on with that. So definitely look at him. Marlins, not many candidates here. The Marlins don't have that great of a farm system or a young hitting core, really. They have some good young pitchers, but a lot of them aren't rookies still, and some of them aren't ready for the big leagues yet, like Noble Meyer, like Thomas White. So I went with Jacob Amaya. Jacob Amaya is a light-hitting shortstop that they acquired from the Dodgers last year, but he's a very good defender. I think he's going to get more of a starting role this year because of the subtractions they've made to the team, and they want them wanting to go into more of a rebuild phase. Obviously, that could change with Tim Anderson being brought in, but I still see Amaya getting a lot of runtime at the infield spots, and maybe even DH some days if they want to just get him in the lineup, see what he can do. Again, a very good defender, very good speedster. He just needs to work on that bat. If he can develop it more, I think he could definitely be an impact player at this level. So he's definitely someone I'm looking at to develop a lot more, make big strides, and maybe become a Rookie of the Year candidate. Finally, for the NL East, we have Dylan Cruz. There was a lot of candidates I could go here for the Nationals. I could have gone James Wood. I could have gone Robert Hassel. But I went with Dylan Cruz. He was the second overall pick for a reason. He's very close to the big leagues after basically playing in a big league environment last year with LSU. He's an incredible hitter, one of the best hitters in the minor leagues already. One of the top prospects in baseball already as well. I'm looking for him to make a run to make the roster opening day. I doubt it, but crazier things have happened. He'll definitely be up soon, and I definitely think he'll become a very good outfielder for the Nationals, become a franchise cornerstone, and be in the NL Rookie of the Year running rather quickly and show how good he really is, because he is that good. As a Mets fan, it hurts, it's not fun when I talk about how good other teams' futures are going to be, but he's very, very good. And I try to say I'm biased. I do it to the best I can. Next, going to the NL Central here, we're going to talk about Dylan Cruz's teammate on the Pirates now, Paul Skeens. Like Dylan Cruz, Paul Skeens was in an MLB environment last year with LSU. Unlike Dylan Cruz, he got picked first overall because Dylan Cruz got picked second. So that was nice. We didn't really know who the Pirates were going to pick, Skeens or Cruz. Obviously, in the end, they picked Cruz in the draft. So, yeah. I'd look at Skeens as a top Rookie of the Year candidate. I don't believe he'll start the year on the MLB roster, but I think after a few starts in AA or AAA, he's going to get a good amount of it down. He's going to get every day of it down and become a major league player very soon. His repertoire is insane. Great fastball, great slider. Might need a third pitch a little bit, but I think he has some good stuff already. Naturally, that's good. He just needs to make a little bit more of improvements because, again, he is a prospect. Paul Skeens, great player. Looking for him to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation rather quickly, even though he did just get drafted. And, I'm looking forward to watching him and seeing how his first year in the big leagues go and seeing if he can become an impact player straight away. Next, for the Cubs, we have a guy I've talked about so much on this channel. People might be getting sick of me talking about him. You know who it is. It's Pico Armstrong. I love this guy so much. He's such a good player. I'm still a little bit salty the Mets traded him. But, he's so good. I think if his bat develops a little bit more, he'll be one of the top players in baseball rather quickly. His defense is elite. His speed is elite. His tools are elite. So I think he's a great player and a guy, really looking forward to if you're a Cubs fan. So, definitely a guy to look out for and be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. I know he'll definitely be in mine. The Brewers, it has to be the newly extended Jackson Chourio. Has to be. They gave him a huge contract for a reason. He's a very good player. Probably the top prospect in baseball. You could argue him and Jackson all day, but I think it's very close. So, I definitely look at him as one of the top prospects in baseball. I definitely think he's going to make the roster opening day with the contract they just gave him. Even though he is young, you don't give him that contract because you think he's going to be good. You give it to him because he's going to be elite, because he's going to be a superstar. And I think the Brewers see that, and I think they want to give him every opportunity to make the opening day roster. And in the end, I think he does, and I think he will. Next here, we have the St. Louis Cardinals. It is their young shortstop, Mason Wynn. We talked about him a little yesterday after the Brandon Crawford signing in St. Louis to kind of mentor him. But Mason Wynn's a great player, one of the better defenders in baseball. He's going to be that as soon as he gets up, as soon as he plays a consistent amount of games. He was last year, even the little amount of games he did play. He is still considered a rookie, so that is why I have him here. If he can get that bat to above average, he'll be such a good player. That arm is incredible. That defense is incredible. He's a franchise guy at shortstop, the Cardinals hope. And I really like him, and I'm really excited to see what he can do at the major league level. The Reds, finally wrapping up the NL Central here. Sorry about that. Noelvi Marte, speaking too fast for my own self, kind of a New York thing. Speaking way too fast, I think you can realize it sometimes on the podcast. But yeah, Noelvi Marte is a great young player for the Reds. Acquired him in the big Luis Castillo trade a year or so ago. Is a great young infielder who's going to fill in a lot of positions. I think he'll be up. I think he's going to make a big impact on that team rather quickly, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited to watch him. Very excited to see what he does, and I'm just looking forward to him and what goes on with him. So definitely looking forward to Noelvi Marte and seeing what he has in the bag for us and seeing how we can impact this Reds team right away. Going to our final division now, it is the NL West. We're going to talk about the reigning NL champions, the Arizona Diamondbacks. To me, the answer clearly is Jordan Lawler for the Rookie of the Year. They drafted him very high for a reason because he's a very good player. He'll probably fill in at shortstop after a month or so in the minors, just getting a little, seasoning him a little bit more, getting him more adjusted to high-level pitching because he did struggle a little bit. And you have guys like Kevin Newman, like Geraldo Perdomo, who can fill in and be a fine stopgap until Lawler is ready. So I would expect him to be up soon. Just probably not make the MLB roster opening day. I could be wrong, but I think that's what's going to happen. I think he should make the MLB roster opening day. I'm always a fan of giving your young players a shot, but Diamondbacks definitely know more than me. I'm looking at him. The Dodgers next. This is a pretty clear answer. I mean, it's Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He's considered a rookie for some reason, just same as Yari Rodriguez. He played in the MPB. He was one of the greatest pitchers of all time in the MPB. He's 25. He's going to win Rookie of the Year in the NL. I would be shocked if he does not. He's so good. I can't talk enough about how good Yoshinobu Yamamoto is. That's why like 5 teams offered him $300 million after not pitching a game in the major leagues. So, he's going to win Rookie of the Year. He is considered a rookie for some odd reason. So, definitely looking at Yamamoto to be the Rookie of the Year favorite for not only the Dodgers, but for the entire league as well. The Giants. For me, it's DeMarco Luciano. A very good young shortstop they have in San Fran. Nice power hitting guy. They've been waiting a few years for him to come up, and I think this is finally the year he does. And finally the year. Sorry about that. Finally the year he becomes a fixture in the Giants lineup. He's very good. I feel like I've been saying that a lot about all these young guys, but most of these young guys are very good. That's why they're in this conversation, and that's why I'm talking about them right now. I would definitely look at Luciano as a guy who can be a Rookie of the Year favorite, especially, make a big impact for the Giants as a young player. So, that's something to watch here if you are the Giants or you're a Giants fan or a baseball fan. Mark Luciano and what's going to happen with him and what's going to happen to him for this year. Next, we'll talk about the Padres. It's going to be Drew Thorpe for me. Probably the second biggest piece in that Soto trade next to Michael King. A very good starting pitcher prospect who has shown why he's gone up the ranks a lot in the prospect world. He has great stuff. Really broke out with the Yankees in the minor leagues, and got traded to the Padres as part of this big trade for a reason. So, definitely looking at Thorpe as a guy who can be a big impact to the Padres pitching staff when he does come up. I think it'll be May or June. I'm really looking forward to seeing how his career trajectory goes, and I think Padres fans are as well, considering they traded him in exchange for one of the better players in baseball. So I think he has a lot of pressure on his hands right now. I think all the guys in that Soto trade do, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. Finally, the Rockies. For me, it's Adel Amador. They don't have many prospects, but I think Amador could surprise some people and be in the lineup, be in the roster this year rather soon. He's a very good young shortstop. One of the top Rockies prospects. Actually, one of the only guys really on that Rockies team that is kind of a young star or someone to build around. So, I definitely look at Amador as a guy to look at as a Rookie of the Year candidate if you are a Rockies fan. So, I definitely think he's someone to watch here and someone to talk about when talking about Rookie of the Year, especially for the Rockies fans because they don't really have much else going for them right now. Their organization's kind of in shambles, as it has been for a few years. All right, so that's the end of our segment 3. we're going to take a break, but in segment 4, we're going to be talking about news around the league. Usually what I talk about at the end, stories I thought were interesting, but maybe didn't deserve its own full segment. So we'll be talking about that, and I think we're going to go to our break, but then we'll talk about that after the break. So thanks, and see you later. Bye. All right, we're back here for our fourth and final segment. This is just talking about some news around the league, some stuff I wanted to talk about, make sure that was mentioned on the show because I thought it was very notable. So, let's get straight into it. So the first one is about Miguel Sano. He, after a few tumultuous years, after being a big fixture in the Twins organization, a guy a lot of people thought would be the future, kind of dealt with some problems, specifically weight problems. He was really big. I don't say that to make fun of him. It's just kind of the situation he was in. He went overseas, played in some winter ball games, didn't really play for an organization for a little while, but he signed a deal with the Angels after impressing in winter ball, and showed up to camp and is looking really good, really skinny, really in shape. So he could be a factor for the Angels this year, kind of out of nowhere. So, good for him, and I'm really rooting for him. Seems like a cool guy. Seems like a guy that you want to win. I'm looking forward to see what Miguel Sano is going to do for the Angels this year, and if he is a big surprise for them, like I may be expecting after seeing a picture like that. Next, we have the Cubs. They made a small trade, a little Chicago trade, trading Bailey Horn to the White Sox. This clears a 40-man spot for the Cubs to officially announce the Cody Bellinger re-signing. So, I'm glad the Cubs are finally getting that done. We'll see Bellinger play in a spring training game hopefully soon. And, that's something I'm looking out for to see how Bellinger performs back with the Cubs and what's going on with that. Next, we have another piece of news here. Carlos Hernandez, bullpen arm for the Kansas City Royals. He was shut down due to shoulder soreness. Probably going to be a big part of the Royals' bullpen this year, so that's not good, but it shouldn't be a long-term thing, kind of more short. That is going to affect him a little bit, just kind of nagging all year, so you got to get that checked out. I think it's all right. It's not a big deal. Wanted to talk about it. I thought it was notable. I'm kind of high on the Royals this year. I think they have a lot of holes, but I think the players they do have are really good. And I think there's always one big surprise team that gets the 6th seed. Last year's the Diamondbacks, and they made the World Series. So, you can never really count out any team in this league. So, I definitely look at the Royals as a surprise team. And Carlos Hernandez news doesn't really help you, but again, it's not a big deal. You have other bullpen arms. You signed guys like Chris Stratton, like Will Smith. It's not a huge deal. Next, speaking of bullpen arms, the Nationals, they have agreed to a contract with former Boston closer Matt Barnes. Barnes was a very good closer for the Red Sox for a long time. Signed a 2-year extension on the heels of a great season with the Red Sox. Then, kind of after the second half when the contract was announced, he was not good. He was not good. He had a great first half and did nothing after that. The second half was just horrible for him. Did not play very well at all. So, not good. But Nationals hoping they can take a flyer on him. Hopefully they can get him back to his old form in a way, and seeing what can happen with that. It's a good signing by the Nationals. They've done this a few times now this offseason, most notably Joey Gallo. I like the fact that they're doing this. I think other young rebuilding teams should do this. If the player sucks, he gets you a better draft pick because he'll probably lose you some games. And if he's really good, you have a guy to either build around or trade at the deadline for a bunch of prospects. So I'm always a fan of younger teams doing this. I think the White Sox have done it pretty brilliantly as well. So, yeah, I like what the Nationals are doing with the Matt Barnes signing and overall with signings like this in the offseason right now. Next, we have Harold Ramirez. He is apparently being shopped by Tampa on the trade market and could be a trade candidate in the near future. This makes a lot of sense. The Rays just signed Ahmed Rosario, of course, and Rosario probably is going to be taking a lot of at-bats against left-handed pitching, as he is a righty who hits left-handers pretty well. So that kind of takes away a good amount of at-bats for Harold Ramirez and what he brings to the team. So, yeah, I think it makes just logical sense for the Rays to be shopping Harold Ramirez. Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I think if teams can have interest in him, he hits lefties well. Overall, good player. He had a nice season with the Rays last year. But you always have to be mindful because seasons players have with the Rays, they might not replicate with other teams. Because it is the Rays, they have some sort of secret formula where they can make players very good again. So you always have to take that into consideration when you're making a trade with the Rays. And I think teams will. But still a good player being shopped around by Tampa, so maybe we'll see some action there. We obviously just saw a former Ray being traded yesterday in Manuel Margot, so that's something to watch. Ke'Bryan Hayes today hit a grand slam for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yeah, I mean, looking forward to a big season by Ke'Bryan. Nice start to it, hitting a grand slam. He's one of the young core guys for the Pirates. Signed a big extension last season. One of the better defenders in baseball already at third base. He's going to be for a long time. If he can get that hitting to a consistent level, he can be an extremely good player, a very, very good player. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to him potentially having a breakout season. And, let's get on with that. So, yeah. Chris Sale, he made his Braves spring training debut. He was hitting 97 on the gun and struck out 4. So a nice start to the Braves for Chris Sale. Can maybe give him some momentum going into the season with him as their big pitching addition. I think, like a lot of people, I was very skeptical of this addition because it is Chris Sale in 2024. He's dealt with a lot of freak injuries. He just hasn't stayed healthy, like I've said. He's kind of regressed when he has been on the mounds, but Braves are a very smart organization. They know what they're doing. So if they believe Chris Sale can be the Chris Sale of old again, who am I to doubt them? So, looking forward to seeing Chris Sale in Atlanta and seeing what he does. Finally here, the segment's not over. We're going to be talking about some just spring training games and what's happening with them around the league and what's going on with that. So, first we'll talk about the games that have finished. First, the Mets and the Marlins. It was 7-1. Mets won. The young players showed out. Drew Gilbert had some hits. Luis Angel Acuna. G-Man Choi had a long home run, so that was nice. Adrian Hauser had a good debut with the Mets, and looking forward to that. Nationals blew out the Astros 10-3. Orioles beat the Tigers 5-2. Red Sox and Cardinals tied 3-3, which is disgusting. Ties in baseball are horrible. I know it's spring training, but come on, man. Let's be serious. Same with the Phillies and Twins as well. Same exact score. Tigers beat the Blue Jays 6-4. Pirates blew out the Braves 13-4. Obviously, I talked about it. Chris Sale did have a very good game for the Braves, but after that, Ke'Bryan Hayes, he did hit a grand slam, so that obviously broke the doors off the Pittsburgh Pirates. Brian Reynolds hit a 2-run homer to also help the cause. So, the Rays beat the Yankees 4-2. It is currently the end. We're going to go to now current games. Current for live people. I don't think it's current for audio people, depending on when time I get this out. It could be, but I don't know. The Reds are currently no-hitting the Cubs in the end of the 6th inning. So that's something to watch. They've had Frankie Montas go 2. They then had, let me get the name, Connor Phillips go 2. then had Tony Santielian go an inning, and Zach Maxwell, who's a nobody reliever, I guess, also go an inning. So we'll see if they can get the no-hitter done. Probably won't be on stream, but we'll update you if anything does happen. We're ending in a few minutes, so I doubt that. The Rockies and Royals are in the bottom of the fifth. Bases loaded for the Royals, with Vinny Pasquantino at the plate. So we'll update you on if Pasquantino does something there. The A's are beating the Guardians 3-1 in the top of the fifth. Mariners are beating the Giants 7-5. Rangers are beating the Diamondbacks 7-2. Angels beating the Brewers 5-4 in the top of the fifth. And of course, we have to talk about the Dodgers game. Ohtani, had his debut with the Dodgers. First at bat, struck out from Garrett Crochet, who was throwing 100 on the gun. The White Sox, I forgot to talk about him a long time ago when I was talking about relievers turning into starters, but White Sox are stretching out Garrett Crochet, making him a starting pitcher, and I think that's something really interesting with the raw stuff he has. He has a lot of injury risk. He's already at Tommy John, so I'll see how it goes, but I'm very interested to see how that works out for the White Sox and see what happens there. But so Ohtani first struck out to Crochet, then hit it into a double play. His next at bat, so not the best start, but it's spring training. He's the best player in baseball. We know better to look into this very heavily. Pasquantino is still at the plate here. He walked actually with the bases loaded, so now it's 2-2 tie for Kansas City. We have Michael Tolbert at the plate for the Royals. So we'll see if he can do anything for the bases loaded. Tyler Tolbert. I don't know why I said Michael. Shortstop prospect for the Royals. Still a no-hitter going on with the Reds and the Cubs. So a nice start to Frankie Montas' tenure in Cincinnati. I've talked about him a few times in the show, how much I do love that contract, how much I thought it was a steal for the Reds, and I'm very excited to watch him in Cincinnati. I think they have a great young team. I've talked about this a few times now. This isn't incredible news, but I'm really looking forward to Frankie Montas in Cincinnati with that young pitching staff, with Lodolo, with Green, with Graham Ashcraft signing, with finding Nick Martinez, making him a starter as well. So something to look out for. So that's some recap of news around the league, as well as some spring training games. Nothing else is really happening right now. Tyler Tolbert, he's still at the plate. The Rockies made a pitching change, so we're not going to be able to see him and his what happens with that at bat. But if something notable happens, I'll probably kick myself for it after. But that's the end of our show today. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means so much. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Keep donating, keep liking, keep subscribing. It really does help us, really does help me, everyone around here. So thank you so much for that. And I'll see you tomorrow. So thanks and goodbye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn.